BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Championships 2024 at Altenburg in Germany. With a busy week of action, it all started on Thursday morning, wet and overcast with women's skeleton. With rain streaming down and the track soaking wet, everybody had struggled for pace, even the Germans who were expected to do well. The reigning world champion Suzanne Kreher was only 11th after the first heat. Kreher was in the lead as we got to the Olympic champion Hannah Neiser, another local slider here. Only 7th fastest in the first heat, but she produced a little bit more pace in the second to try and find herself a move up the order. Tabby Sturcker of Great Britain in her first World Championships on a track where she's had very little experience before, lay in third place, just 700ths out of the medals after the first of the 4 heats. Would she be consistent? The surprise winner early in the season in La Plagne in France would be an overnight medalist as she had the lead with 2 to go. Hallie Clark last year made her World Championship debut for the USA in St. Moritz. This year, sliding for her home nation of Canada, she was in second place after the first heat. She was a little behind Sturcker early on, but she managed to find pace down at the bottom of the track to close the gap. And despite the fact that everybody was on very slow ice, she squeaked in front by the narrowest of margins, to the delight of her coach. Hallie Clark, the 19-year-old, the overnight surprise leader from Tabby Sturcker and Hannah Neiser, and the first heat leader Kim Boss out of the top 10. With 2 more runs to go, anything could yet happen. The men were on track in the afternoon. Conditions had not improved. Yin coming here, fresh off 2 World Cup wins in the last 2 outings, hitting perfect form for the World Championships. But those are both on really tricky drivers' tracks. This is one where you have to be cool, calm and collected. And it seemed he could make that gear change really nicely. 7th in the first heat, a blistering run put him into the leader's box where he would remain. As we got to the final 2 sleds, it was still Yin of China who led, but Matt Weston, the reigning world champion, was to put him back out of the leader's box. His second run was getting on for a second slower than his first, but it still shaded out all of the rivals to the delight of his soaking wet mum and dad. Fastest in the first heat, 2-time world champion Christopher Groothair, the reigning Olympic champion. He'd been 300ths of a second only ahead of Matt Weston from the first heat. Weston outstarted him again in the second, and for a while it looked as if Groothair was going to struggle to get back on par. But entering the lower part of the track, he just had enough to claw his way back. The overnight advantage, 400ths of a second. 400ths covered the top 2, third place, 3/4 of a second back. The battle for gold, Weston versus Groothair. Friday morning dawned dry, thankfully. The final runs of the women's skeleton all up for grabs. The deciding heats on a cold and snowy Friday afternoon. Jacqueline Pfeiffer, the local heroine, silver medalist here on her debut in 2015, and the gold medalist in the World Championships in 2017, lay 5th after 3 runs in challenging conditions. Trying to hold off Amelia Coltman, the rookie from Great Britain, Pfeiffer had to come from behind with a slower start and just squeezed in front for a top 5 finish.
Leute, ich bin zu alt für den Scheiß. Was für ein Wahnsinn!
Ahead of her in 4th place, in the medals overnight, Britain's Tabby Sturcker. She'd lain in 3rd place after the first heat, but dropped out overnight into 4th position. And with a final run, she was trying to stay in front of her super experienced German rival. Before this week, Sturcker had only 20 runs in her life down the Winterberg track, still learning with every run, but doing just enough to guarantee herself a shot potentially at a medal. It was going to be a tough battle all the way down the line. Kim Marmont of Belgium, 600s in front of the British slider after 3 runs down the track, just in the medals, but with a chance perhaps even to attack for the gold. Best ever World Cup result, 5th place in 2017, but this was looking like a medal all the way. Always a stylish slider. She grew up in the German programme and knows Winterberg well. 5th best speed at the bottom, not enough to take the lead away. She was in the medals, leading with 2 to go. Belgium's first ever skeleton medal. After 3 heats, 3 miles of ice, there was a dead heat. 19-year-old Hallie Clark, the under-20 world champion from last year in St. Moritz, on her debut. She was tied with the Olympic champion Hannah Neisser. Whoever won, we would have the youngest ever world champion. Clark was fast at the start, faster than any of her starts so far, and just drove superbly, holding the speed across the line to take the lead and guarantee herself, at the very least, a silver medal in her 2nd World Championship outing. Her mum on hand to celebrate with her. And so it came down to the hometown queen, the Olympic champion Hannah Neisser. She was the youngest ever skeleton Olympic champion in Beijing 2022. Would she become the youngest ever world champion? The odds were in her favour. She knows the track in all conditions. Her rival did not. But it had to be a perfect run. Her start is slower, 1,500 slower than Hallie Clark, and by the Kreisel she was struggling to undo that disadvantage. And further down the track, where she should have been making speed, she didn't. She'd come up short, not second, down in 3rd place as Hallie Clark and Kim Marmont took the top 2 spots. The Olympic champion Hannah Neisser taking bronze on home ice in Winterberg. Hallie Clark at 19, the new women's skeleton world champion. And with a tight battle in the men's competition overnight, the final runs looked like they would be absolutely barnstorming. Into the 4th and final heat, and the battle for the medals hotting up on a track that was much quicker than the previous day after a cold snap swept through. Germany's Axel Jung, 2-time silver medalist in the World Champs, Olympic silver medalist, in a tie for 4th place with Great Britain's Marcus Wyatt, and looking to move up onto the podium. In his 8th World Championships, bags of experience on this track, and a silver medalist in the last race here last season, Jung laid down a smoking run, a massive challenge for a medal. Great Britain's Marcus Wyatt's best result in the World Championships, a 5th place in St. Moritz last year. This is his 5th World Championships. He lacks a little bit of experience compared to Jung, especially on this track, but lacking nothing in getaway. Starting faster by 1/10 of a second and then finding great pace down the hard, slick ice. As night fell, the speeds picked up even more, and Wyatt blazed to a brand new track record to take the lead away from the German with 3 to go. The die was cast. It was the battle now for bronze with China's Ying Cheng. Only his 2nd World Championship start, but he's been a model of consistency. 3rd fastest in the 3rd heat to keep himself in the top 3. He was only 11th in St. Moritz 12 months ago, but really found speed. He couldn't match Marcus Wyatt for pace at the bottom, but he had just enough to keep his nose in front by an agonising 100th of a second, guaranteeing himself a medal. The battle for gold, though, was 3/4 of a second ahead of the rest of the field. Matt Weston, the reigning world champion, had been just a few hundreds back overnight, but a new track record in Heat 3 by Christopher Grotehair meant he started the final run needing to find more than 15 hundredths of a second. He tidied up his act all the way down the track, finding better and better speed to go as quick as anybody down the track, apart from teammate Marcus Wyatt. With one to go, the world champion led. Christopher Grotehair, the reigning Olympic champion, won both world championships last time we were in Germany in 2020 and 2021 on his home track in Altenburg. He knows this place just as well, and in his 8th world championship, he managed to put down another flying run, easing away from Matt Weston all the way down, building speed in the classic German manner on this most intricate of tracks. Top speed at the bottom and a 3rd World Championship gold. In 5 years, he's taken 3 world and 1 Olympic titles. He is on absolutely top form. Ahead of Matt Weston in silver, Yin taking China's first ice sliding World Championship medal with bronze. But Grotehair could celebrate his 3rd win with friends and family. Saturday morning and bobsleigh in action in the Worlds for the first time, with women's monobob first on ice. Next up was Alana Myers-Taylor. Alana started 3rd fastest in the first heat, but hit the first corner very hard, which slowed her down. But in the second run, she looked absolutely sensational, cleaning up the early part of the track that gave her the speed she needed to challenge for medals. The most decorated women's bobsleigh driver in the field this season, and Alana on the hunt for a medal. In the top 3 after the first of the 4 heats, the Australian Brianna Walker, one of the outstanding monobob drivers in the business, but yet to claim a World Championship or Olympic medal in this new discipline. Over 4 heats, she's going to be tough to beat, but in the second, she dropped just behind Alana Myers-Taylor. Disappointed to be losing a spot and possibly dropping out of the top 3. It was a good run according to her coach. Brie wasn't so convinced. Cynthia Appiah dropped out of second place. She'd had a start record in the first heat and a blinding run, but she dropped 5 positions, leaving Lisa Buchwitz, the first heat leader, as the last to go. In the second heat, she just lost a few hundredths to Alana Myers-Taylor, the gap over the American going from 13 to 9 hundredths of a second. The difference being Alana is now in second place, her closest rival, with Brie Walker still in third ahead of Lauren Alter, and Buchwitz wondering how to tidy up day 2. Saturday afternoon and the first heats of the 2-man bobsleigh worlds. Reigning world champion Hannes Lochner and Georg Fleischhauer hadn't started particularly strongly in the first heat, and he was only in third position. Lochner had a serious crash in Altenburg a week earlier in training and is not at 100%, but he still had enough to hold off Brad Hall, his good friend, all the way down the track. First heat advantage from Lochner to Hall was 18 hundredths of a second, and he added another tenth to it. But it looks as though this will not be Lochner's year to win gold. After the first of the 2 heats, the Amor brothers, 22-year-old driver Adam, 30-year-old brakeman Issam, they were just 6 hundredths off the lead, and Amor needed a good run. It was quick, it was faster than anybody else, and it had extended his advantage over Johannes Lochner. But would it be fast enough? Francesco Frugic and Alexander Schuller were chasing the start record set 5 years ago by Frugic and Torsten Margis. They were 100th off in the first heat and 100th off in the second. But the first heat leader had set a brand new track record with his first run down, beating his own mark from 2021. And at the line, he had a second track record for the day, and he'd extended his advantage from 6 to 22 hundredths overnight. He is halfway to his 8th 2-man world title. Francesco Friedrich a handy lead over a spread out top three, then Brad Hall leading the chasing pack into day two. It wasn't all over. Saturday evening saw one of the highlights of week one, the skeleton mixed team competition. For the USA, one of the fastest starters in the business, Mystique Rowe with teammate Austin Florian. In all of the teams, the female slider goes first, and they use a reaction start on the lights, but colourblind Florian can't tell the difference between red and green. He has to wait for the audible sound. Nevertheless, a quick reaction to back up his teammates' flying run. Both had been quick in the individual races. With China 2 in the leaders box, the Americans eased 6/10 ahead. Next up in the start order was Great Britain 1. Amelia Coltman in her first World Championships, and Marcus Wyatt, the track record holder from the men's competition. Coltman built speed all the way down this track in the women's race and came up just 600 shy of the super fast starting Mystique Rowe. Advantage America for now. The Team USA had to worry about the speed of Marcus Wyatt, who was the fastest man in the individual competition. And Wyatt brought it back to the line to take the lead for Team GB, but there were still 6 teams to go. Austria's Janine Flock and Sammy Meyer dropped behind, so it's now down to Germany 2. Local heroine Jackie Pfeiffer, the 2017 World Skeleton Champion, and 4-time team gold medalist Axel Jung. Pfeiffer laid down a smoking run, the fastest of the competition by a margin to take the lead, and Axel now had to try and find the pace to defeat Marcus Wyatt in head-to-head combat. But with a sizable advantage from his teammate, he knew that they had a great shot. After them, 4 teams would remain. A medal was not beyond the bounds of possibility. Germany 2 took the lead. Pfeiffer celebrated with her teammate. When China and Italy dropped by the wayside, Pfeiffer and Jung knew they were in the medals. The sole remaining British team, Tabby Sturcker, the 23-year-old and silver medalist in the World Championships, Matt Weston. Sturcker had been flying in the women's competition. A quick reaction time and a great start from her kept them right in the frame, just 300s in it. Matt Weston, the 2023 World Champion from St. Moritz, had been a silver medalist in the men's competition, and he wanted to prove that he still had the speed to beat the very best. He came from behind to go ahead of Germany. Great Britain in the medals guaranteed at least a silver. And so to the final team. Hannah Knighter, the Olympic champion on home ice, had dropped out of contention and not taken the gold medal in the final run of the women's competition. She gave her teammate Christopher Groothair a great opportunity, coming up just 300 shy of Tabby Sturcker. So it came down to a race, as the men's competition had, between Matt Weston and Christopher Groothair in one run. And Groothair beat Matt Weston in every run of the individual competition. In the teams, he made it 5 runs out of 5. Another gold for Groothair. The 3-time world champion is now a 3-time world team champion as well, each time with a different partner, with Great Britain and Germany too completing the podium. Finally Sunday, and time to decide the medals in the Monobob World Championships. Andrea Grecu of Romania, the reigning European Monobob silver medalist, in the top 6 after the first 3 heats, and with a chance perhaps of moving up into the medals. She was 5th, 2900ths off the lead. The tie for bronze, just 700ths in front. She would need the best run of the competition to try and snatch the medal, and she produced it, finding from somewhere one of her season's best starts and a great drive as well on the tricky Winterberg track that had seen the top half dozen jumbled up in the 3rd heat. Coaches were delighted, Andrea was too. Now she had to wait. In the tie for bronze was Alana Myers-Taylor, the Olympic silver medalist, back to her very best. And after a good night's sleep where her husband Nick on site was looking after the kids, she was really up for the fight. Fastest start of her competition came in the fourth deciding heat, and she was quickly in front of Andrea Grecu. Her worry wasn't the Romanian, her worry was how to get ahead of the 3 sleds that would remain in the start house when she finished her run. She needed to be super fast. Super Mum was super fast. Now it would be Alana's turn to wait to see if a medal would come her way. Overnight leader Lisa Buchwitz did not look happy with her third run. She was the first on ice, and she saw the track rapidly speeding up after her. Only the 7th fastest run of the heat. She was in 3rd place, tied with Alana, into the final run. She knew she needed something very special, but she's producing those drives all season long in the Monobob. She's won 4 of the 7 World Cup races up to the World Championships. She was desperate to try and stay in front, but perhaps a little too tense. Mistakes lower down in the track robbed her of speed, and at the line, she was behind. Alana was in the medals. The waiting game continued for Buchwitz. 2 to go, and a very different situation for Australia's Brianna Walker. She'd been outside the top 3 overnight, but drove herself fantastically into 2nd place in the 3rd heat. Now, instead of hunting medals, she was the hunted. And that difference in mindset seemed to be making itself clear. This was the least tidy of her runs. One of the great Monobob drivers just couldn't hold it together. She dropped to 3rd with 1 to go. Alana would be no worse than silver. Brianna would have to wait. The final sled, Lauren Alter, the reigning world champion, only won her first Monobob race since St. Moritz Worlds last week in Altenburg. And she has a bit of a physical injury. It's not helping her at the start. However, her 3rd heat was an absolutely spectacular masterwork, and her 4th showed no signs of slowing down. Best speed all the way down. Easing away from Alana Myers-Taylor, grabbing the gold with both hands as she raced to the line. Lauren Alter, the world champion, the first to defend her title. Alana Myers-Taylor takes the silver medal, and Lisa Buchwitz the bronze. But Lauren Alter was absolutely ecstatic. The race winner, the world champion in Monobob. Sunday afternoon, and the 2-man competition reached its conclusion. USA driver Frank Del Duca and brakeman Manio Mitchell, on his debut in the World Championships, were lying in 5th place overnight in a tight battle with Great Britain's Brad Hall behind 3 German leading sleds. Strong starts in both their final runs kept them right in the frame. Despite challenges from behind, they managed to keep themselves in a top 5 position. Del Duca had finished 26th on his World Championship 2-man debut in St. Moritz a year earlier, so a top 5 was a massive improvement for the American and their new sled program. Just ahead of him, Brad Hall and Taylor Lawrence for Great Britain. Brad started the season slowly, recovering from late summer back surgery, but they have produced some great starts in this 2-man World Championships, and as ever, Brad Hall driving up a storm. Looking to finish just outside the podium, holding on to his top 4 position, equaling the best result since Tony Nash and Robin Dixon claimed bronze in the Worlds in 1966. A great weekend to start the World Champs for Brad Hall. He had overnight stitches in the finger trapped under the push bar, but still produced one of his best drives in Winterberg. After crashing Altenburg last week damaged his neck, Johannes Lochner, the world champion with Georg Fleischauer in St. Moritz, not quite on top form. Nevertheless, they were producing good, strong starts on day 2, and as ever, Lochner driving superbly. The German-built FES sleds were in a class of their own. German sleds filling the top 3 after the first, second and third runs, and Lochner was not about to let that go. He was challenging his teammate Adam Amor for the silver medal, charging hard all the way to the line to take the lead with 2 sleds remaining. His dad right at the finish to enjoy the moment. Adam and Issam Amor, the brothers, were in the silver medal position overnight, and they did not falter. Heading into the final run, though, with the pressure from Lochner, would they be able to maintain their position? In the last Worlds here in 2015, when Francesco Friedrich won, Issam Amor was pushing one of the 4 running bobs. But now, after more than a decade in the German bobsleigh programme, he and his younger brother at the front of the sled had the chance to grab a silver medal, and it did not faze them. Adam is in superb form, having won the last 3 two-man races against his World Cup rivals, and he took the lead with only 1 sled remaining. The final sled, Francesco Friedrich and Alexander Schuller. They'd set track records in the first 3 heats of the competition, challenged the start record with every push, but that had eluded them. It'll have to wait another year. The 8th two-man World Championship, though, would not. Beaten last year to the two-man title by Johannes Lochner, Friedrich responded in the only way he knows how, by working harder, pushing better, driving faster. It wasn't a 4th track record, but it was a record 8th two-man World Championship win, taking gold ahead of his teammates Adam and Issam Amor, Johannes Lochner and Georg Fleischhauer. Cheered to the echo by wives and children and the rest of their families, Friedrich and Schuller celebrating a resounding victory and a German sweep of the podium here in Winterberg. After a hectic first week of action, week 2, we look forward to women's bobsleigh and the 4-man event, the blue ribbon of the World Championships.